An Israel-Lebanon ceasefire plan. Now that Netanyahu has run out of good reasons to mulch the Gaza Strip, and he has expanded his conquest in the West Bank, he needs to keep the war machine running, so he's moving up into Lebanon. He's going to invade at some point any day now. Who knows? Israel rejects it. Our puppet state rejected us. God help me bring back Kissinger. What happened to a U.S. State Department with a little bit of sauce, huh? I'm not kidding. I know Kissinger was evil, but he got stuff done. It's pathetic. Blinken is pathetically weak. Israel is supposed to be our puppet state. They exist at our behest. We wave our hand and they're gone. What happened? This is insane. Who would you pick for a Kamala Secretary of State? At this point, a random Twitter leftist. I don't know. Sean. Like, the S-H-A-U-N. The skull guy. I don't know. Somebody. Anyone. Look at this. Look at this. Right now, despite intensified bombings occurring in Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, the U.S. Embassy in Beirut is not evacuating citizens. If you are a U.S. citizen in Beirut, a city being bombed with U.S. bombs by a U.S.-backed foreign power, you have to pay for a commercial flight out. In spite of this, we are sending troops in to potentially assist in the evacuation of citizens from Lebanon. But we're waiting because an evacuation of those citizens right now would implicate Israel. It would make Israel look bad that we have to get American citizens out. It would be like an undeniable, like, you know, yeah, Israel poses a threat to U.S. citizens. So we have troops there, but as of right now, you have to book your own flight if you want to get out of there. Rogue state. Rogue state! And they are really bombing Beirut, too. Look at this. Beirut suffers unprecedented attack. Dead and wounded at the scene. An entire block brought down by like indiscriminate bombing. There's videos of it on Twitter, real videos. It's not just like targeted strikes against you know, Hezbollah leaders or whatever.
Sydney donated $250.
They're mulching blocks. Yeah, the death toll's getting up there. TTS? I'll turn off TTS. I always forget to turn off TTS. I've asked this before, but is the Lebanese government really not going to do anything? But the Lebanese government doesn't have any power. The Lebanese government can't do anything.
How much more dangerous do you think it is now?
I mean, it's hard to assess a specific level of danger. I think certainly in Gaza.
There was a different video feed here before. Now it's been replaced with a live feed.
The humanitarian impact. Tens of thousands of Lebanese are moving north as Israel's air assault shows no sign of relenting. So far, the strikes have been in areas where Hezbollah has a presence. Nabil is among those who have been displaced by this conflict, having to escape his village. He believes the war is only at its beginning.
Why is Blinken stalling? Because they're completely cucked. It probably doesn't help that Biden is ideologically a Zionist.
It's becoming harder to be far from the reality of this conflict.
Yalla, 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 yalla. Yalla, we just heard the strike very close to the school where the displaced people are seeking shelter. You can see in the
Netanyahu isn't even Israel. He's calling for these strikes in America. Yeah.
distance. Israel's strikes really, the Israeli military has been widening its scope of operations in the past few days, striking deeper inside Lebanon. We are approximately 50 kilometers from the border.
The Israeli military says it is degrading Hezbollah's military capabilities as it tries to pressure the group to agree to halt fire without an end to the war on Gaza. The trajectory of this conflict appears to be one of escalation.
Again, keep in mind, Beirut is massive. It has 2.5 million people. It's the capital of Lebanon. And the population has probably been swelling because people from southern Lebanon have been moving up there to avoid the war.
Civilians are being killed and wounded, many of them children. There have been hundreds of casualties in the past few days.
As these strikes move deeper inside Lebanon, it appears what they're trying to do is target infrastructure of the medium-range rockets and missiles, the strategic assets of Hezbollah, as well as the logistics and supply lines. These valleys, these roads are very important supply lines.
I don't get it. At least October 7th was a halfway credible reason to intervene. What is the reason for war here? A great many people in Israel, including the war cabinet, believe in Greater Israel. They're religious/ethno-nationalist fanatics who think that Israel should reclaim the imagined borders of its, like, ancestral... Yeah, I mean, you can find... Like, if you want to go back and argue that anyone can have any borders, you can. There's always a historical justification if you want to, like, do the blood and soil bit. But they're blood and soil guys. They're fascists. They want all of this territory. And Netanyahu is keenly aware of the fact that due to his unpopularity, he runs out of gas the moment the war ends. The only reason Netanyahu is still in the position that he's in is because of the war cabinet, because the ongoing military conflict justifies his continued position there. So, as strongmen often do, you manufacture excuses for conflict, so you keep the momentum going, so you keep the fear and paranoia going, so you keep the power going. This has happened many, many times before. You know, like, this is certainly not an Israel-specific thing. It's just usually we aren't directly backing the country doing this in so obvious and political. Normally, when America backs a country doing this, we do it by, like, quietly selling them weapons, not by freely providing them in bills that the government votes on, completely, like, pro bono, while all of our politicians virtue signal to the camera about how it's morally justified that the rogue nation that we're backing is doing this. This is supposed to be like an embarrassing secret that gets found out by journalists, not an open, like, it's not even open and secret. We're just like proud of it.
Not just for Hezbollah, but for the civilian population to make their way out of southern Lebanon.
It's been described as Israel's heaviest bombing campaign in decades, and this is still not a full-on war. With no sign the warring sides are close to or even willing to discuss a ceasefire.
I was standing near my car. I opened the trunk, and then there was a massive explosion. Then there was smoke everywhere. If I moved just a few seconds later, I would have been killed. The rubble closed the road. I had to drive on a dirt road to reach here.
How many dead now? I think we're approaching 1,000 in Lebanon, most of which are civilians. There was a single day of bombing that had something like 400 or 500 dead, which I think exceeded in a single day, like basically any day of the 2006 war. Oh, you want to see what happened back in 2006, by the way? Here's an article from 2006 of the American military evacuating American citizens in Beirut. What we did then, the last time Hezbollah and Israel went to war. Now you have to buy a commercial flight. Why are they even allowed to bomb Lebanon? You can, that's the secret to international politics. You can actually do whatever you want as long as no one stops you. Is an all-out war inevitable at this point? I mean, basically, Israel is literally just stating they are going to invade Lebanon. Yeah, I think the only reason we're waiting any is because we don't want to implicate Israel, because it makes Israel look bad if we start evacuating U.S. citizens, because there's literally no way to sell that other than as a consequence of like Israeli bombing in Lebanon, you have to leave. Though they're probably going to phrase it as like, you know, due to conflict between Hezbollah and Israel, or due to Israel's efforts to rid the region of terror group Hezbollah, you have to leave, you know?
Sheltering and evacuation centers.
Hold on. Where was the news article that I had up?
Strikes. An exodus is underway out of southern Lebanon this morning. People are heading north for safety. They're trying to get out of the way of intensifying Israeli airstrikes targeting Hezbollah. Strikes that can come without warning. A Lebanese journalist was recording an interview when Israel is focusing much of its firepower on southern Lebanon, just across the border from northern Israel, where Hezbollah, backed by Iran, has stored rockets, missiles, and drones. Israel is also targeting Lebanon's western Bekaa Valley, which the Israeli military says Hezbollah uses to smuggle in weapons from Syria and Iran. Lebanese health officials say more than 500 people, including children, have been killed by the...
So Hezbollah doesn't fight back because they're actually the same ones, they don't want to start a full-on war. No, Hezbollah has been firing rockets into Israel for nearly a year now. They said they'll stop when the genocide of the Palestinians stopped, which of course hasn't stopped. Israel has fired far more north than Hezbollah has fired south, but Hezbollah is absolutely a participant in this.
the Israeli strikes so far. As Lebanon braces for a wider war, it's powerless to stop. Hezbollah doesn't run Lebanon, but it's stronger than Lebanon's government and armed forces. And the militant group is still firing rockets and drones. We captured them being intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome.
Hezbollah has managed to score a few direct strikes in Israel, but overall, the amount of damage in Israel has been minimal. It seems that the Israeli military strategy is to overwhelm Hezbollah before the group can carry out an effective counterstrike. Is this going to a land war? It's an air campaign so far. Do you think that's where this is heading?
At the moment, we're focusing on an aerial campaign to remove threats and heavy missiles pointed towards Israelis.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned Lebanese civilians to move 1,000 yards away from Hezbollah military sites. But that is...
Remember, every residential house is a Hezbollah military site, though, so that's pretty difficult.
Assumes people know where they are.
I urge you, take this warning seriously. Don't let Hezbollah endanger your lives and the lives of your loved ones.
Hezbollah says it will stop attacking Israel if Israel stops its war in Gaza.
Genocide of Gaza.
But a ceasefire and hostage deal is deadlocked.
Israel says it will continue its strikes in Lebanon until Hezbollah is disarmed and pushed further away from the Israeli border.
Keep in mind, as we literally saw in that Mehdi Hassan debate a few days ago, the Israeli government has acknowledged they cannot destroy Hamas because that's not how terrorist organizations work. So if they couldn't destroy Hamas, how can they possibly destroy Hezbollah, which is like significantly larger, an order of magnitude larger? They can't. There is no actual like end goal to this. There is no, at this point we will stop. It's just infinite war forever until we stop it. The only way this conflict stops is when America puts its foot down or if Israel is destroyed. That's it. Like a raging wildfire. Like it either gets dammed in or it burns out. That's it. That's how fascist empires work. Wannabe empire in this case. Though of course, you know, Israel does effectively have imperial holdings and Golan Heights, though they aspire to much more. Small scale in terms of like, you know, global land size, large scale in terms of ambitions, as it always were. By the way, the Pentagon had literally no warning for the strike. Yeah, the strike that could have killed US civilians. Because they don't respect us. Because why would they respect us? Can somebody explain to me why Israel would respect us? I mean, we give them everything for like nothing. Why? Like what, like on what? Like what have we done to force respect from Netanyahu? They're like a spoiled child. Oh yeah, they already have killed US civilians. You're right. You think we might see a new, more radical terrorist group created out of this? Hezbollah too? Possible. How much is the Israeli alliance worth to America? I'm sure that the Biden administration thinks it's very valuable. I think it's dog shit. I mean, I think it's an active detriment both to America and the Middle East, but you know. Literally, Richard, it's crazy. What happened, man? What happened? Was it the Cold War ending? When did we lose the Stones?
Israel is striking all across southern Lebanon and eastern Lebanon, Hezbollah strongholds, and this...
And Beirut. You know, and Beirut also.
Building, Hezbollah says it was a motorcycle repair factory and a fuel storage area was hit on Monday, but it was a large strike, an Israeli airstrike, and it happened around 5 o'clock in the morning. It's still smoking. You can still smell the fuel. Now, Hezbollah insists that there were no military targets here. That is impossible for us to confirm. But what we can tell you is now the Israeli strikes are starting to intensify. They are starting to spread out beyond just the 3 locations where we've been seeing them so far, which is in eastern Lebanon, in the Bekaa Valley, which is along the Syrian border, down here in southern Lebanon, where there are more and more scenes like this, but also in Beirut, where Hezbollah has its main leadership headquarters. The people of Lebanon are clearly terrified. They remember the last war between Israel and Hezbollah. That was in 2006. That was a ground war, and it destroyed Lebanon. It totally crippled this country's infrastructure. And after a short while, the war only lasted about a month, Israel pulled out after having suffered casualties. So what will happen this time remains.
Apparently they got Nasrallah. That's unfortunate. The Ayatollah has called an emergency meeting of the Supreme National Security Council at his home compound, according to 2 Iranian officials with knowledge of the meeting. Are you guys ready for more nothing? Why is that unfortunate? Because in the Israel versus Hezbollah conflict, I am rooting for Hezbollah. Hezbollah only started striking Israel in response to the genocide of the Palestinians and is not currently poised to invade Israel and conquer it and, like, displace or slaughter its population, whereas Israel is literally right now currently preparing to do that and has the weapons to do it. In terms of, like, who's more in the wrong on this one, like, yeah, it's pretty clear. Hezbollah is not good, but I don't want Israel getting any military gains in this war. If Israel invades, I want it to be a slow, brutal slog for them. I mean, what should I hope for? That Israel, like, effortlessly conquers everything in its path? His death does not change much. Yeah, Hezbollah has a relatively decentralized command structure, so I don't think Nasrallah... Hassan Nasrallah... Hassan? I don't think Hassan's death necessarily changes their outlook, like, strategically. You know, it's... I mean, I don't know. It's just a guess. I've heard that they have a relatively decentralized command, so I, you know, working from that. I heard that just the IDF knowing where he was means Hezbollah is pretty compromised. Well, yeah, I mean, Israel has Mossad. I mean, you know, it's we dunk on Israel for a lot, but there's no denying they have, like, effective intelligence capabilities. The reason why they bomb indiscriminately is because they like death, not because they don't have the ability to target precisely. They just enjoy killing people, you know, the IDF, I mean. Their intel capabilities are stellar. Yeah, there's no chance, Richard. Unfortunately, when the ground invasion of Lebanon begins, assuming it does, which I think it will, you know, it seems pretty likely that it will. I think somebody earlier in chat noted this. I feel like it's basically guaranteed that America helps them. At this point, we are so in the hole when it comes to overcommitting to our support to Israel that we're probably going to trip over the red line that Biden stated months ago. And we're just going to, yeah, I don't know, like, park a carrier group off the shore. I mean, we'll certainly keep giving them weapons. I thought we already did. Well, we have a carrier group parked off the shore, but they're not doing anything. They're just, you know, chilling. They're not levying the monstrous amount of firepower that a carrier group has to glass the inside of Lebanon. The red lines are just milestones for them. Yeah. Like an abusive partner finding out your boundaries so that he can keep breaking them. I read the expose on how Blinken actively censored evidence of Israeli crimes conducted by U.S. agencies of international development purpose. Not exactly new news, but it's wild. It's just so blatant. Yeah. Israel deliberately blocked humanitarian aid to Gaza. 2 government bodies concluded. Anthony Blinken rejected them. Blinken has been like a personal and involved facilitator of the genocide from day one, going beyond like a regular agent of the Biden secretary, you know, like the Department of State, and like actively facilitating it. Blinken told Congress, we do not currently assess the Israeli government as prohibiting or otherwise restricting aid, even though the U.S. Agency for International Development and others had determined that Israel had broken the law. Nasrallah has been the only leader of Hezbollah, I'm pretty sure. Regardless how decentralized they are, it'd probably be a great hit morale. Maybe, you know, Islamist groups are pretty big on martyrdom. I don't want to, like, generalize, you know, people are people, but I think that, like, Hezbollah as an organization was literally built to fight Israel. That is the main thing they care about. They hate Israel. Their leader being martyred by an Israeli strike that would have also killed civilians. I mean, that feeds into, like, a narrative. They do have gumption. They, you know, as far as I have seen, they do have gumption. Hamas had gumption. But Hezbollah has far, far more people and weapons than Hamas does. It's unthinkable for me to even consider Posadas, John. I don't know. We're so far out in the deep end on that one. Like, conceptually. Though nothing's impossible, I suppose. Though, they would never nuke Gaza. Too close. They would, if Israel was going to nuke anything, it would be Lebanon. Lebanon, Syria, or Iran. It wouldn't be Gaza. They want to turn Gaza into, like, a resort so that the worst Americans alive can visit there and spend $200,000 getting their, like, you know, nails done on Palestinian land. They don't want to nuke it.
An open question, but many people here are leaving. Many people here remember what happened in 2006, and more specifically, they watched what happened in Gaza. So this area aside from Hezbollah, aside from some civilians, and it's very difficult to tell the two apart. Hezbollah don't wear uniforms. They blend in among the population. There aren't many civilians here. There aren't many people here at all, and a lot of them are heading up to Beirut, heading up to other areas that they believe are safer. But now, and you can see some of the smoke still rising, this is increasingly the face of the conflict here. This is increasingly what Lebanon is becoming.
It's not good, folks. Bibi is not even trying anymore. Netanyahu attacks UN as anti-Israel flat earth society. Man, it's genuinely crazy how, like, and I'm not kidding here, a millennia of anti-Semitism is going to be built off of him. Like a literally for like to your children and their children and so on and so forth for a very long time. This is going to be like a focal point of anti-Semitic attacks against Jews. And he's doing it deliberately. Like, he doesn't care. The more vilified Jewish people are internationally, the more perceived, you know, the need for Israel is. Yeah, it's like ISIS shit. It's like Al-Qaeda shit, right? 9/11 galvanizes Americans against American Muslims, which furthers radicalization. It's all part of the plan. Isn't this just blatantly an admission they consider everything to be a valid target? I mean, we know they do, but Netanyahu says that Hezbollah puts a missile in every kitchen, a rocket in every garage. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's a joke. It's comedy. It's, yeah, we only strike legitimate military targets. That, like, the joke, oh, Hamas built a military base inside the skull of this child, isn't even a joke anymore. That is legitimately the excuse that they are using, that their head of state is using. Yeah, they're laughing at us. It's like a joke to them. Netanyahu is fully aware of the absurdity of the statements that he's making. He knows he's trolling. He doesn't believe this. He's just saying it because he knows he can get away with anything. American media isn't going to attack him over this. They're not going to, like, tear this apart in the mainstream. They know perfectly well that, like, the orthodox opinion on Israel is essentially like uncritical support, and if you are going to be critical, it's like concerns for the care of their strikes and not pointing out that they're monstrous and genocidal. You know, when you criticize Israel, it can only be the IDF has been careless and not the IDF is deliberately trying to maximize misery. And God only knows how bad they'd be if we weren't watching. This is another war Israel cannot win. The IDF has struggled more than people expected just dealing with Hamas. There's no way they can meaningfully invade and occupy Lebanon unless we help them directly. Our military is a lot more competent than theirs. Is there actual combat in Gaza anymore? I think there's like some skirmishing. I don't think it's like substantial though. That's the main reason we've seen the focus on the conflict move into the West Bank and Lebanon, because it's getting increasingly difficult to, you know, keep the momentum going off of conflict in Gaza. I mean, oh yeah, Israel is still bombing civilians in Gaza. Don't get me wrong. They're still being killed over there. Thanks, Joshua. But in terms of like mutual conflict, not so much. A Jewish friend described this conflict as everyone hates Israel right now, and I had to reevaluate my friendship with her. Well, your friend isn't technically wrong, you know? I mean, the only real question, Richard, the only actual, like, what can you do is, I mean, at some point, Israel has to lose. That's the only way this ends, right? Why the constant zooming in and out?
All right, we do have breaking news this hour that we want to talk about. We can now confirm that Israel's strike on Hezbollah's headquarters in Beirut was indeed aimed at taking out the terrorist organization's leader, Hassan Nasrallah. We still don't have any confirmation, though, whether Nasrallah has been killed or not. Rescue workers are responding to the scene right now in southern Beirut, where they are evacuating the injured, also retrieving the bodies of those that were killed in the airstrike. You can still see the plumes of smoke from where that strike took place. Our foreign correspondent Marcus Moore is in Beirut, along with our contributor and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for the Middle East, Mick Mulroy. Marcus, let's start with you. We're just learning that Benjamin Netanyahu is actually cutting his U.S. trip early now. He made his speech this morning at the UN. So I'm assuming it's to get back with the news of what might have taken place here. We still haven't confirmed the death of Nasrallah, but clearly, if he is dead, this is going to be a huge story.
Yeah, a huge story, no doubt, Kira. Major
I mean,
development.
yeah, Richard, like, it sounds bloodthirsty, but there are literally only two things that can stop Israel from just, like, spreading like a wildfire and spreading because you think they'll stop with Lebanon? Why would anyone think that? Are you insane? This was supposed to be about Gaza, and then they attacked the West Bank, and now they've been attacking Lebanon. Now they're set on invading Lebanon. Like, this is going to go into Syria? Yeah, did we not learn this with Hitler? We know how this ends. There are two ways this ends, right? Either America stops them, which we always could. We have always had that power. Or they lose. That's it. Or they get hurt badly enough that they have to effectively retreat and say, well, we won because we did the previous goals.
Happening here in Beirut. The word from Prime Minister Netanyahu's office in Jerusalem is that he will head back to Israel tonight, as we are watching images of absolute catastrophic destruction unfold.
Yes, remember, !PV donate so you can contribute money to Progressive Victory's canvassing operations, an event going on October 5th and 6th up in Wisconsin. Go up there to canvass, !PV for more details. Also, canvassing house across the country. Also, phone banking, which you can do from anywhere. Also, you can donate. All of this is very important because Kamala Harris will definitely, totally, for sure, for real, end this war as soon as she gets in office.
From the site of the blast, that if you look at just behind me, you may be able to see the haze in the distance. That is the smoke still rising, the smoke and dust still rising from that scene after a series of blasts. We felt and heard one of them today, Kira. It was without a doubt, the largest and most powerful blast we have felt this week. And this will mark the 5th strike on Dahia, the southern suburb of Beirut.
No, Israel can't invade Egypt. That would be a touch too insane for them. I mean, I think they could probably expand into Syria. They can't. The only thing that Israel could do to Iran is, like, occasionally pepper it with strikes, or if they decided they wanted to, like, basically end the world, they could nuke Iran. They could nuke Tehran. They can't attack Egypt. They can't really attack Iran. They're pretty much limited to Lebanon and Syria, you know? They can't really do anything about Jordan because that would, you know, they're our direct ally. Eventually, they have to burn out.
The Hezbollah stronghold, the 5th strike just this week. And as you reported, we understand, according to the IDF, that the target was Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah. But you look at the devastation there, and we are talking about several buildings that have been severely damaged, flattened, according to reports. And so we are talking about scores of casualties. Right now, we're waiting for word. I've reached out to the health ministry here, and we're waiting to get the initial report. But I can tell you, Kira, in our time that we've spent in Dahia, it is a densely populated area, not only with shops, but also homes. And the fact that you have several buildings...
They can't use their nukes because their neighbors have huge stocks of chemical weapons. The only way they use their nukes is if enemy troops are literally in Tel Aviv. Yeah, but unfortunately, like, that is also a real, slim, but real possibility, you know? If Israel keeps... like, just with, like, absolutely no limitations, swarming out, you know, eventually they're going to open themselves up to counterattacks that might legitimately start to... I mean, that's the Samson option, right? Obviously, if there was an actual, like, ground invasion of Israel, we would send troops there, and that would be the end of that, because we're us. But, like, a huge regional war... I mean, it's the specifics are almost immaterial. Israel is objectively behind this, like, massive regional conflict, and they are escalating at every possible turn. Like, it's as simple as that. It's not that everyone but Israel here is a good actor. Hamas isn't good. Hezbollah isn't good. Syria and the Assadist regime certainly aren't good. Iran isn't good. But, like, we know what's instigating this. It's not ambiguous at all. It's not really up for debate.
That have been absolutely destroyed. We can anticipate that the numbers will be quite high. Right now, as you mentioned, we don't know if Nasrallah is alive or dead. Israel saying that they targeted him. There's been no confirmation from Hezbollah that he was even in that area, and so we'll have to wait for word on that. Kira.
And clearly, Mick, we're getting, you know, there's other foreign news agencies like, you know, the Saudi press is reporting that Nasrallah has not been killed, but still we don't have any confirmation.
I don't think we know whether he's been killed. It just seems like he has. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, past the point, we just have to wait for more information, I guess. I still can't believe the U.S. Embassy to Lebanon in Beirut is not evacuating U.S. citizens. That's crazy to me. Are they waiting for the literal boots on the ground invasion? Are you insane? Guess the October surprise came early. This ain't the October surprise. We'll see when the ground invasion starts. Do you think U.S. citizens being killed by Israeli troops would finally get Biden to do something? It's already happened. Multiple times in this genocide, Israel has killed U.S. citizens. They've killed U.S. citizens in Gaza. They've killed U.S. citizens now, it seems, in Lebanon, as I understand it. Am I incorrect on this? Thank you, Bjorn. It doesn't matter. It clearly doesn't matter. The West Bank, yeah. Can't wait for the U.S. to, or for Israel to accidentally blow up the U.S. Embassy in Beirut. Yeah, fucking. And then Netanyahu will say Hezbollah was operating out of it, and Blinken will be like, wow, you're right, that's true. And we all just have to sit here and grin. Yeah, it should go without saying none of this is good for Kamala Harris's chances. Do you think Kamala will do better on this than Biden? Kamala Harris doesn't seem to be an ideological Zionist. There is Zionism that is being conducted for political efficacy, and there's Zionism that is ideologically held. Biden is an ideological Zionist. All the evidence we have suggests that Kamala Harris's Zionist tendencies are pragmatic, not ideological, which means that it's very possible she's not going to be anywhere near as pro-Israel as Biden has been. At the very least, maybe she'll be more amenable to holding them to red lines rather than actually letting them walk all over the red lines with no consequences. But that's just a guess. Kamala is in AIPAC's pockets? No, she's not. AIPAC is essentially just a massive conservative funding bloc that is nominally pro-Israel, but that's not their main motivation. That's, that's not the main thing they care about, which is why they're almost always used as a wedge to attack progressives over conservatives rather than meaningfully protecting, I don't know, pro-Israel candidates or candidates that are good for Israel or whatever else. Thank you, Charlie, for the 25. And yes, that would be quite nice. We don't even talk about Congo or Sudan. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you very much for the $50. It's also worth noting that AIPAC is, oh my God, when it rains, it pours. Thank you for the $100, and we're at 29 gay now, Thank you. She can claim she doesn't support this anytime she didn't. Yeah, that's what I mean by pragmatic Zionism. Obviously, as the VP in Biden's presidential administration, she can't say, yeah, I'm breaking with what Biden has said, and I am anti-Israel, or anything. Oh, the money that Kamala Harris has gotten for her campaign dwarfs the amount that AIPAC can offer. She's a presidential candidate. She's not some 2-bit congressman or whatever, There are way more moneyed interests involved. Yes, I have heard, there have been many behind-the-scenes indications that Kamala Harris is a lot less pro-Israel and a lot more pro-Palestinian. But again, pragmatism or perceived pragmatism might win out over humanitarian interests in this respect. An Israeli official just told the biggest news station in Israel that, quote, Israel's going to war. Okay. Do we do this just over text or whatever? Even though it's already obvious, you can just be in the Knesset and you can just text yeah, we're going to go to war. I mean, why not, right? So when can she break from Biden? After election, after inauguration, before next election? It's a tough question. I mean, again, I'm only speculating here. My guess is that if we're going to get anything better out of Kamala Harris, it's going to be that Kamala Harris's cabinet picks, including her Secretary of State, she has said she's not replacing Blinken. Sorry, she's not keeping Blinken. She's replacing Blinken. So the next Secretary of State, along with the other administrative orgs that she would control, would be a lot more critical of Israel in the sense that at the very least, Blinken wouldn't be there to actively silence the federal orgs that are examining and confirming Israel's war crimes. Blinken should be in jail for the rest of his life, 100%. It's not going to happen, but he should be. Likewise, my guess is that Kamala Harris would be a lot more likely to actually hold Netanyahu to red lines. Also, think of it this way. Netanyahu is playing his bets with Trump winning because we're right up against the American election. If Kamala Harris wins, she's president for 4 years. Trump likely won't be able to even run again because he'll be ancient, but even if he could, 4 years. 4 years of constant escalating conflict in the Middle East as the American taxpayer grows increasingly tired of hearing news headlines day after day about how bombs we pay for are going to Israel. Netanyahu probably understands that if Kamala Harris, thank you, Travis, thank you. If if Kamala Harris ends up winning, he won't be able to maintain like that indefinite American support for that much longer. He won't be able to continue fueling it. Thank you for the $50, Jacob. My goodness, you guys. You guys understand what I'm talking about? Right. Her saying she would replace Blinken is essentially a statement that she disagrees with him. You wouldn't publicly say that you would replace him unless you like didn't like him. You know, that's already acknowledgement she wants to differ in terms of foreign policy. And the only two like major foreign policy controversies that we've been running through lately have been Ukraine and Israel, and I have seen no evidence that Kamala Harris is anti-Ukraine, so it's got to be Israel, right? That's been the main thing. So my guess is that after Kamala Harris wins, if she wins, there's never going to be a point in time where Kamala Harris takes to the stage and she's like, now I can finally speak. I condemn Israel for their monstrous actions and I praise Allah and so on and so forth. That's not going to happen, right? My guess is that, you know, support would be whittled away, and the federal government would grow more critical. That's my guess, but I don't know. You know, I'm not placing too much stake in Kamala Harris as like a moral agent, unless she puts someone worse or just as bad as Blinken to replace him. I don't know why she would do that, to be like, that could happen. That seems very like, you know, I disagree with, you know, Adolf Hitler's behavior. It puts in Adolf Hitler too. Thank you, Adam, for the $100. My goodness, PV Donate, eating good tonight. Thank you very, very much. That would be, I mean, I guess it's possible. It just seems unlikely to me. But again, I don't think Kamala Harris is like an amazing presidential candidate. I think she's going to be better than Biden, and I think that she's definitely better than Trump. I think that Biden is uniquely bad on Israel. Yeah, Phil Gordon's a possibility, Dave Rubin, though I don't know enough about Phil Gordon to like, you know, yap about him in like an informed way. Afghanistan was also a travesty? You mean the war or Biden's pullout? Because I think Biden's pullout was like fine. It was kind of from the get-go, because from my understanding is that there was basically no way for us to reclaim all the equipment we gave the ANA without committing more troops or more time there. If we wanted to follow the pullout time, we basically had to accept that, like, if the ANA immediately folds the Taliban, which we all kind of predicted they would, though not as quickly as they did, the Taliban was going to get that equipment, and there's nothing we can really do to stop them without committing more resources, which kind of contributes to the indefinite, you know what I mean? Exactly, Annie. Like, I think everyone expected it to happen. It just happened insanely quickly. Shouldn't have been in there in the first place? Well, I mean, yeah, of course. I think that for the most part, Biden did a fine job with that one. Obviously, it wasn't perfect, but, you know, unironically, one of Biden's bravest moments politically. Yeah, his approval never recovered after that. That was it. He did the thing everyone said they wanted, which was pull out of Afghanistan, and his approval rating just never recovered. August 30th, 2021. Peep the chart. The only president brave enough to do the thing every voter said they wanted, and he was punished for it. In case you ever wonder why presidents don't do things like this often. Oh yeah, no, 100%. It was just such a snafu, okay, Comrade Robin Hood, but the average voter doesn't even like, they could never understand. The median voter. Yeah, that's also true, Peony, but no one talks about this because, again, like, the media is rigged against us, you know? Most of the equipment the Taliban got, they can't use because how are they going to repair it? You think the Taliban has the supply lines to maintain American military equipment? Do you have any idea how expensive it is to keep our equipment up and running? It's not like a regular Jeep or whatever. Like, those are, every one of those vehicles has like 1 million special made parts that are made in American factories only, you know? Like, the parts that you use to repair like Lockheed or Raytheon vehicle, like, those aren't made at your local Toyota dealership. Those are made in our factories. Where do you think they're going to get them from? That shit's going to fall apart. The Iranian regime has a bunch of, like, you know, old, don't they have American and Soviet? Hello, Benjamin. Hope you enjoying your fishing. F-14s. Yeah, they have, like, older equipment, but despite how much money the Iranian regime has, which is quite a bit, the Iranian, like, you know, Iran's a pretty thriving country, like, relative for the region, you know, their shit's falling apart. What do you mean when you say median voter? I'm saying retard. I'm saying like retarded normie, but like it's the political version of that. I'm not joking. That's what I mean. Americans are dumb, basically. We need to get over that mentality. It's not just Americans. Look at what's going on in Germany right now. Thank you, Zane. Thank you for the 25. I really appreciate that. Iranian media is saying if Nasrallah is dead, Iran will declare war on Israel. Dude, Iranian media says so much shit. Iranian media loves to say shit. They love saying shit.